Hello everyone, so today we're going to go over section 8.5, order of operations. When we evaluate integers with more than one operation, we need to follow a certain order. So the order is brackets and exponents, followed by dividing and multiplying in order from left to right, and then finally adding and subtracting in order from left to right. So brackets in mathematics usually refer to the square brackets such as these. However, oftentimes when we are working with BADMAS, as it is known by this mnemonic device for the order of operations, usually instead of including brackets, such questions will involve parentheses instead. So the round brackets are actually called parentheses, and the square brackets are called brackets. Okay, so the steps to evaluate such questions, we will identify the operations and underline it. We will perform the underlined operation and then repeat until we are finished with the question. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Okay, example 1. So here we have some parentheses, but they are just there to indicate that -3 and -6 are in fact negative integers. There are no exponents, so the first operation that we will need to work on is actually simply 5 times -3. So right here. So we have that underlined, so go ahead and multiply those two together. 5 times -3, of course, is -15. And the rest of the question is still the same, so plus -6, and then divided by 3. So the next step in the question will be to divide. Recall that we finish multiplying and dividing from left to right, and then finish with adding and subtracting afterwards. So we will now divide here. And of course, -6 divided by +3 will give us -2. And finally, the last step here is to add these two negative integers together. And if we do that, we will have -15 plus -2, which is -17. And that's the final answer. So let's look at another example. In this case, we have a set of brackets with a operation to be computed inside of it. So we have 7 subtract -4 is the first operation to be completed. So in this case, this will be -13 plus 11, and then multiply by 2. So the second operation to be completed here then is the 11 multiplied by 2. Let's go ahead and do that. Next. So of course that will give us 22. So the question then becomes -13 plus 22. And the third step is the addition. -13 plus 22, which is +9, or just 9. Okay. So that's the idea. Let's look at the next question. So here we have -2 minus 10 divided by -2 minus -8. But with BADMAS in mind, or with the order of operations in mind, the first step to work on is actually this middle part. Okay, so we can divide 10 by -2, which will result in -5, like so. Notice that we have two operations left over, and they are both subtraction, so we're just going to compute them from left to right. So here, -2 minus -5 is going to be resulting in 3. And then the rest of the question was subtract -8, which we'll compute in the final step, and that will give us an answer of 11. Okay, so far exponents really haven't made an appearance. So in example 1D, we'll see an exponent. Okay, but we do work with brackets first. So here we have -1 minus -6 as the first operation to be completed. So let's go ahead and underline that as usual. Here we are. And that will result in just 5 divided by -1 to the third power. So the question is, what do we do with -1 to the third power? Because it is our next operation, we should underline that first. So here we go. And the idea here is -1 to the third power means -1 multiplied by itself 3 times in total. Or -1 times -1 times -1. I think that's a simpler way of describing that. And so -1 times -1 is, of course, +1. So we have 1 times -1. And the final result here will be -1. So -1 cubed is just -1. Or -1 to the third power is simply -1. So in step 2 then we have 5 divided by -1. And so let's finish the question. 5 divided by -1 is -5. Okay. Let's look at a more complex example on page 2. Alright, so there are brackets, exponents, adding, subtracting, dividing, all these different operations. Let's see, what do we do first? Of course, we will work with the brackets first. So in this case, we have, sorry about that, 4 divided by -2 is the first operation. So after the 4 divided by -2, we have -39 minus -2 squared, or to the second power, plus -7 to the second power. So the next step is the exponent step. And here we have -2 squared and -7 squared. And of course, just like before, -2 squared simply means -2 multiplied by itself, which of course is +4. Likewise, -7 squared is equal to -7 times -7, which gives us +49. So after those two, we will have -39 minus 4 plus 49. Okay, so continue to next step. We will have -39 minus 4, which gives us -43. And the rest of the question was, of course, plus 49. So that will be the last step in this question. And that will give us a sum of +6. Okay. It's going to provide a example of kind of a word problem involving BADMAS. So it says here, what is the mean of the following numbers: -2, -6, +4, -5, +2, and +1? So another way to interpret mean is the average of the numbers. So of course, to calculate an average, we add together all the numbers and then we divide it by the number of numbers there are. So in this case, there are 6 numbers. So this will give us -2 plus -6 plus 4 plus -5 plus 2 plus 1, and then all divided by 6. So this has been written with BADMAS in mind, so we're gonna or order operations in mind, so we're gonna add together the 6 terms. Let's see here, what do we get? So -2 plus -6 is -8. In the first step. Now, of course, it is possible to just add all 6 numbers together in one go, but we're gonna take our time here. So next up we have -8 plus 4, which of course is -4. So plus -5 still, plus 2 plus 1. Okay. And then from there, -4 plus -5 is -9. Okay, so running out of room here a little bit. I'm just gonna continue to the right. So -9 plus 2 is -7, plus 1, then divided by 6. All right, next up we have then -6 divided by 6 as the last step before the final answer. So the final answer is simply going to be -1. Okay, so that is the order of operation with the mnemonic device of BADMAS. So brackets or parentheses, and then exponents, and then multiplying and dividing in order from left to right, and then adding and subtracting in order from left to right. And that's it for today, so thank you for listening.